Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a March 13th edition of the MSP Initiative MSP Talk podcast. Today is a Tuesday, and it's not super cold here in blusterly Philadelphia, which is great, which means things are moving into the springtime, but could be fake springtime for some people. I say that, and then like the blizzard will come, and then we'll be back to snow. But I digress. Lots of things going on in the MSP land and IT services land, so there's never like a dull moment. We'll throw some of that out there. MSPinitiative.com. That's where we park all of our stuff. Some of the stuff that we do on an annual basis starting to finally pop into the calendar. So, I'm not going to get into all of that now because I'm going to use all of the available time we have today with our guest. First time bringing them onto the show, Mr. Tim Conkle. Some people call him Texas Tim. There's other names out there, but Mr. Tim Conkle, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing good, and I really appreciate being here. Uh, this seems to be going to be a very fun thing. And I really thought when you were talking about the weather, you were talking about Texas. I mean, we've got a balmy about 76 right now,
You
and
know,
it could be 20 tomorrow.
I always remind the people in the northeast part of the country, like there's like fake spring, right? You
Yeah.
start to like get your warm clothes out, and then all of a sudden it's 22 degrees and snowing. I don't know, but thank God I don't live in like Maine or Wisconsin or Minnesota, where like they only
Yeah.
have non-snow for like 3 months out of the year. I don't think I could do that. Although I'm on planes a lot. That's fair. That's a fair comment to make, but part of the plane thing is also the kill the seasonal depression thing for the people who don't live in warm areas. So I digress.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Tim, first time on the show. We were just joking before we went on that like we kind of pass each other, drive by, but never really got into anything crazy. So we're gonna do it on this show. This is gonna be great. I always give people like and you have a pretty, I'm sure, interesting journey through technology land. I want to start there, right? Like, let's
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
all the way back in the time machine and like give us a walk down memory lane. Like, tell us about the journey to take us to the present day.
Yeah. So go all the way back to high school. Never touched a computer. Didn't
Awesome.
have one in school. Now, I'm not telling you I'm really old. I'm just saying they didn't have computers back then. It's friggin' nuts. But I went in the military,
Okay.
and I was really good at what I did. I was a master gunner on a Bradley.
Hmm.
So they elevated me up where I worked at division. Why? Because your division commander wants a really good gunner. So when you go to gunnery, everything looks good. So when you're not doing that though, and you're at base or whatever you want to call it, uh, they had to give me something to do. And so they set me in front of a computer and gave me a job. I'd never touched one before. It had two 5 1/4 inch floppies, one booted, and the other one had Word Perfect that you could crank up. And I fell absolutely in love with technology.
So you
I
got
mean,
really good at pressing keys on a keyboard rather than shooting things out of guns.
yeah. So, and it was such a difference. And then I got out of the military, went to work for EDS, and this is kind of how life is. I had a great job. My wife was pregnant. I was looking at a newspaper one day, and in that newspaper sat an IT company for sale.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking, okay. So I go look at this thing, and I always tell people when I first walked into the place, it looked like somebody took like 1,000 computers apart, took all the parts, shoved him up an elephant's butt, backed him up to the door, kicked him in the chin, and he just blew this shit everywhere. It literally looked like that was back in the day of white boxes and stuff. We built our own PCs. And so I looked at the company and I was like, there is no way. So I called my dad. My dad, this is what my dad does to me. He goes, well, if you're scared, don't do it. He knew. And so I bought a little company called Rolling Technology. Struggled for 18 years
Mm.
to try to hit $1 million because you just had no idea how to get there. And back then, it was just little bitty companies everywhere. 18th year.
Hold
uh,
on, Tim. That's still a lot of itty bitty companies everywhere today. Don't.
oh,
Let's be fair.
no, no, no.
Like
Just
things change, but
tons.
they haven't changed that much.
No, it hasn't. We moved from building white boxes and Landtastic and Novell White and Windows for Work groups into really being professional companies.
Mm.
That's the the chronology of it and everything has been incredible. But you're right, there's still lots of small, struggling companies.
Like, let me just interject. I am under the impression, maybe you have different stats. Feel free to correct me. Like, of all the companies categorized as IT companies or sub 150 people, small medium business, technology companies, managed service companies, I don't care what name you want to use.
Yep.
Just put it all in the bubble. Like 85% of them don't even have 10 employees.
Yeah. 85% from what I've heard are sub-million.
I think you're right.
And it's tough. But I think there's a reason for all of that. I mean, and I think it could be easily fixed. But so then
Okay, we'll get there. Keep
shoot
going.
forward, shoot forward, and I've in the 18th year, I've really learned how to grow the company
Okay.
and exponentially grew after that. And then I sat there and I thought, there's all these guys out there that don't know how to get from point A to point B.
Mm.
I do. What better way than to start a group and then not just teach theory,
Mm-hmm.
but bring execution?
This is the the hidden problem in any breakout session, main stage, peer group, whatever, anything I've
Yeah.
ever gone to. And I believe, I actually went back and did this kind of on the back of a napkin the other day. I believe I have officially been to over 1,000 events in my time in the sandbox.
Wow.
That's a
That's
lot of
unbelievable.
events.
That's unbelievable. But I think in a lot of ways, from everything I know about you and your company, you've kind of done the same thing, except you've done it from a different angle. You've
Mm.
taken a product and you said, "Hey guys, there's no way you can execute on this. So let me execute and show you how to." So
It's
in a lot of ways,
execution. Hold on, let me put one word next to it, and consistency.
100%. And
The
so
words.
I think what me and you have done for the channel is probably fairly close, just a different angle.
Okay. I'm picking up what you're putting down, Tim. I'm following you.
Yeah.
So it took you 18 years in your own IT company to number one, figure out what was wrong. I by the way, that's the hard way. I don't care who, 18 years of banging your head against the wall. I feel your pain, no question. But like, you figured out how to break that glass ceiling, and then what happened?
So we break the glass ceiling, and ultimately I start teaching people how to break the glass ceiling
Mm.
just from one way: Google pay per click, how to make your phone ring. Well, once you do that and your phone actually rings,
Mm.
now you find out the rest of your company's broke too. You actually have to service delivery. You have to actually sell that thing. You have to be able to compete at parity with
Mm-hmm.
your competitors that are around you. And I talked to several people that had been to the class. One guy stands out big time. And I was at a conference in Florida, and he walks up to me and I said, "Hey, how's it going? How's the Google doing?" He goes, "I've been on 44 appointments." And I said, "Dude, that's
Wow.
incredible." This is a guy that had been in business over 5 years
Mm-hmm.
and hadn't had 44 appointments in 5 years.
I believe that.
And
I
so
believe that.
I'm like, "Dude, that is incredible." And he
Mm.
goes, "Yeah, but I haven't sold any."
Ah,
And so
dude.
I stepped back. I thought, "Oh my goodness!" But then I was in L.A., ran
Mm.
into a guy, and he had gone from like 700,000 to 3.5 million in 18 months from the Google class. And I
Wow.
said, "Dude, that's incredible." He goes, "Yeah, but I'm not making any more money." So I'm in LA. I said, "Can I visit your office?" And he goes, "Sure." I go to his office. I open the door, and there are ungodly amounts of people in there. I'm like, "Who are all these people?" He said, "Oh, I had to hire all these people." So I knew, and that literally gave me the beginning stage of, okay, I'm going to build a company called the 20 that's going to do all the lead gen, sales, and scale. It's going to do all
Mm.
three. I'm going to teach them, you got to lead gen, and then I'm going to give them a pitch. See, a lot of people think sales is a process, uh, and once you know the process, you just keep doing it. No, you have to have a pitch, then you have to have a process.
I'm with you. And I know a lot of people in sales in different arenas, not all in our sandbox. I don't care if it's selling cars, selling pharmaceuticals, selling whatever. Definitely a lot more art than science.
Oh, 100%. And it's got to be simple. And I say this to all, in fact, I've got companies that have flown into Dallas. I taught yesterday and now the rest of the team's teaching today, but I tell them if you can't price a customer in 5 minutes, you might lose them.
Wow, 5 minutes. You don't even know what they have in 5 minutes, Tim.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
In that 1 hour meeting, if you can't price it at the end, if you have to say, the customer typically says, can I get a proposal? If that proposal comes a week later, guess what happens in that week? A yes always runs to a no. They've literally got a week to think about how to say no instead of, hey, I've got a yes today. You're in my office. And so we price on the spot.
Wow.
But
what's your close rate when you do that?
Well, one shot closes are really high. And I would say across the board, my best sell, I don't sell anymore. My best sales guy last year did 190,000 in new MRR.
Wow. Wow.
The one
That's
below,
awesome.
the one below him did 100 plus. But it's because if you really think about it, and this probably isn't a question, but the MSP space, how we package and how we sell is broken, and it's been broken for a long time. It's what I taught a huge group of people yesterday. And I teach that if you're selling IT, you sell on price. If you sell a business decision, it doesn't matter. And a lot of people say, well, that's easy to say, a business decision. I mean, that's dumb as shit. No, what do I mean by that? An educated consumer is easy to get a yes from. An uneducated consumer has to, at the end of the meeting, say, oh, let me think about it. Why? Because he needs to ask 10 friends.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't understand it. What they have to realize is that guy there's making a business decision. So if you create a business decision for him, it's easy to say yes.
Fair. No,
Yeah.
I'll echo what you just said. I was talking to an internal department to one of my companies, and I was meeting with the person there. He's not a cheap person, right? He's like, comes, he expensive guy, but comes with the experience. And he's like, why have you not put any more resources in this team? And I said, that's not a money question. Like, there's not a financing problem here, right?
Yeah.
It's you haven't convinced me to make the investment. That's it. I was like, I have plenty of money. I can surely allocate more people here. I was like, I know what it takes to go through that process and all that jazz. But like, when I go to somebody else's team and they come to me and they're like, hey, if we do this, this, and this, here's what you would get in this time. Like, they laid out the business case for me, right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, go do it. But I haven't gotten that from you. So I can't make that decision because I don't think why spend more money if I don't know what I'm getting from it? What's the upside for me?
Which is, see, we think different. Spending money, a lot of times it first becomes a problem-based thing.
Sure.
Small MSP says, oh, I'm not growing, my phone doesn't ring. What's the first thing he does? Google's for somebody that's going to teach him how to market.
He probably goes to an event and asks people how to figure out how their phone rings because he doesn't know what he's doing. That's the truth. Google, yeah. That's the next thing.
So they just look at the problem and not, okay, what if I put this to it, what is the result? It's just a problem. Hey, if I pay enough money, the problem goes away. But the problem is you could lose your ass.
Oh, 100%. But Tim, football guy, I think that's clear. But I take a very NFL free agency drafts approach to a lot of things that I do, right? Hey, I'm willing to take a risk if there's high upside, right? Hey, if it doesn't work out, no big deal. But if it does, I could go buy a stock at $10 and it goes to 400, right? Like, that could 100%. Be your upside. So I kind of think that way, right? But I need data to make that decision. To your point, I also need to understand what I'm buying.
Yeah.
For sure. Let me flip the conversation into, I know this will lead into current events and I think ties into your background a little bit. You used to buy a lot of stuff from ConnectWise.
I did.
And then you made a decision to diversify and go into other places like Kaseya, right?
Yes.
And I know a lot of what you do is because you have, and we'll hear a little bit more about 20 in a second.
Yeah.
There's a volume conversation here, right? If you're buying a lot more, you're expecting a better deal. And I think that's generally what people think, right?
Yeah.
I think you also spent a lot of time with Fred Vercola, who's, was running the ship over at Kaseya for, I don't know, 10 years or something
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that. Let me ask my first question now that I've kind of put that foundation out there. When you decide you want to go and either add something net new or renegotiate something that you already have, what do you look for in order to get to the end game?
First, I'm not a big fan of moving tools because it's you get 100,000 endpoints, it's very expensive,
Time.
very very labor intensive. And so even ConnectWise at the time, it was a problem that was being solved, not a hey, we just want to switch tools for the hell of it,
Sure.
because tools don't move the needle.
Are you sure? Because when I look at the Facebook, Reddit, Discord, LinkedIn, Slack groups, I'm seeing people switch tools like they brush their teeth.
Well, that's typically going to be people that have a company the size of my thumbnail.
Fair.
And the reason why they have time to be on Reddit is because they don't have customers. And I'm
I,
not and I'm not saying this shitty. I've always said this: vote with your money, not with your mouth.
okay.
Because the reality is tearing down who you tear down today, you may need tomorrow.
Fair.
And let me give you a great example of this, even in my world. So when I bought Collaborants, that is a ConnectWise shop. Why did we buy
Yeah.
Collaborants? Why did we buy it? Did we buy it to move all that stuff to Kaseya? No. We bought it so we have two legs of tools now. So in other words, if someone wants to join the 20, in the old days, it was you go to Kaseya or you can't come. Now it's you can go ConnectWise leg, or you can go Kaseya leg, or you can go Enable leg.
Oh,
And so I think you try to fix different problems. Now, why would we do that? Well, because there's this new little thing that everybody does, and they sign these 3-year deals. So
yeah.
when you can't flip your tool for 3 years, and my requirement is you have to go to Kaseya, or you have to go to ConnectWise, or whatever that tool is, I've got this huge group of people out there that need help with no place to go.
Yeah, and they're stuck contractually, right? Like it's the burden to flip the tool at that point blows out the cost.
Well, it's a deeper, longer thing of, and this gets into M&A and everything else. If you look at most big companies, 100 million plus, most have every tool you can think about in the MSP. Why? They've bought all these MSPs and they're trying to transition and all that. Where the 20 difference is we have the size, but we're on all the same. So when we buy, everything goes to the same tool.
Okay.
So the standard fits all the way through the box. So I tell people this all the time. If you worry more about your tools, you're a small company. If you worry more about your customers, you're a big company.
Okay. I dig what you're saying. I dig what you're saying. So let me go next question on the same theme.
Yeah.
The bundle wars. Because
Yeah.
that's what I think's happening right now.
Yep.
Okay. Whether it's a marketplace who's trying to stitch products together on their own to create a super bundle, whether it's, Kaseya in their case, where they've bought 40 companies and they've been able to super skew themselves under their own umbrella, whether it's see a lot of companies partnering now, right? Like Halo, Ninja, SentinelOne, like they're all creating these kind of, one way or another, it's all leading to a similar outcome, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have we gotten to a place where best in class isn't a thing anymore, where like it's all about, hey, let me get the best price rather than let me pick each ingredient in my recipe?
My personal opinion is about the best functional outcome.
Okay.
So if you step back and okay, I want the best functional outcome. Support is probably our biggest thing that we look at. If I have a product that I can't get support on, it really doesn't matter. That product, I don't care if you get it for a nickel or a penny, it's not worth having. I think there's a little bit of danger to the bundle thing. My personal opinion. What do I mean by that? A lot of people think a lot of people think, well, you know, the 20, they're a complete Kaseya stack because Kaseya bought them. No, Kaseya hadn't bought us. They
Okay,
have
hold
not.
on. That we're on the record here.
Yes. So
That's not true.
it is not even remotely true. In fact, there's only three classes of people that own the 20.
Okay.
There's no PE firm at all inside the 20.
Okay.
I am the majority owner.
Mm-hmm.
The MSPs we buy roll some back in, so that's equity,
Mm-hmm.
and then my employees.
Okay.
I'm a big believer at the closing table at some point when it happens that every single person in the company participates at the table.
Wow.
Every person. I don't care what their function is in the company, they are going to get some of the upside of us at some point down the road. So with that being said, if you look at our stack, even when a lot of people said, "Oh, they're a Kaseya stack,"
Mm-hmm.
we use Kaseya RMM, Kaseya BMS for PSA, but we
Mm-hmm.
use Huntress. I mean, which is, I mean, so it's functional outcome is really what's important to me. How can I keep my customers safe? And to do that, I have to go with the best functional outcome. And I want long term. I want to be on a tool and partner with somebody for 10 years.
Wow.
I don't
10
want to flip.
years.
Why do I not want to flip tools? Because it's very expensive. It's
Mm-hmm.
cumbersome. It creates chaos not only for the company but also for the customer, especially when you get to our size. And so again, Kaseya was there at the right time to give us some things that we needed because we needed multi-tenant PSA and we needed scale. We were getting so freaking big that, you know, because we've got the MSP side and then we've got the group side. You put all those endpoints together, man, it is unbelievable. And now couple that, we all live in one. So we all live in one RMM because functioning across all of us, that means we only upgrade it once. If there's a problem, we only fix it once, not 200 times. You know, so
Okay,
when
so
it comes,
so hold on. Let me take two things that you said and try and align them properly.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you have this massive investment and scale on top of it on the Kaseya side. And
yeah,
then as net new companies come into the conversation with you that already have a 3-year contract with pick your company, I don't care what it is, your position
yeah.
to them is no problem. We're going to use what you have until we have to make a change.
Functionally until we buy them. Because this is the problem. If you look at M&A out there, think of how much technology debt they have.
A
So they
lot.
buy these companies, and I'm not gonna say a name of anybody, but there's a company out there buys it, lets you keep your name, lets you keep your team, and you run functionally by yourself. You're just
Mm-hmm.
owned by this umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
That means how do I get upside from both sides? How do my ticket numbers? How could I ever triage? So the 20, our whole thought was we want everything the same. We want no technology debt in the MSP. In the group, you can stay on. If you're in the group and you want to stay on ConnectWise forever, you stay on it. We're not going to actively poke a hole, hit you with an ice pick or something. Why? Because functionally, let's just be honest. When it really boils down to it, what people don't like is the business side of these guys. Oh, they're overbilling me to get the business side. Oh, them guys want 3-year contracts. Well, hell, you want 3-year contracts with your customers. So I get the 3-year contract thing, and I have no problem. Now, here's where the 20 probably differs. Inside the 20, we rise and fall. So if a guy walked in tomorrow and said, "Hey, I don't have a tool at all," and he picks whatever tool he picks from us, and let's say he needs 163 endpoints.
Mm-hmm.
He only gets 163 endpoints. He doesn't have to buy a minimum of 250, 500. Here's the second part. If you really get in a tight and you lose 30 people, you don't ask. It just happens when you offboard them. It goes from 163 to 133.
I literally was about to say that. The problem generally with the terms is that they lose revenue, but are still stuck paying on the costs, right? And so like there's a misalignment. Totally understand the I feel there. I mean, listen, there's a lot of companies out there that still play the way that we all wish they did, which is the way you're talking about. When I use, I buy. When I don't, I turn off. I'm all good. Everything lines up. Unfortunately, I think that more than half the vendors out there in MSP land in the sandbox have gone the other way, where they've tried to like Tetris this, where your term with them doesn't necessarily align properly to how you do business. And I think this is where there's the problem.
So that's across all our tools with all our vendors.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unfortunately, a small guy out there beating the grass for himself is just going to find himself tired because he's not big enough for them to do anything special for. I'm a big proponent of consumption-based anything.
Okay.
If I don't eat it, I should not have to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's just me. That's just me. Now, so that's why if you look inside the 20, we've built the whole group around that idea. So no member has a contract with Kaseya directly or any of those people that have them with us. And we have contracts with vendors that lets us rise and fall. Now, we've never gone backwards. So it's worked out well for the vendors because we grow fast enough that, it's just the motion of everything just kind of keeps everything in check.
Can I quantify this though real quick? How many endpoints do you have under management across the 20? All of it?
I'll say it the easiest way I can. 100,000 plus.
Okay. So when you go have a conversation with anyone short of Microsoft, you're having a way different conversation than George MSP, with 1,000 endpoints.
100%. And I think that's anybody. I guarantee you, if American Airlines uses Microsoft, they have a conversation.
Yeah.
They're not having the, and so this goes back to a basic fundamental premise in business: size matters.
It's true.
But think about this for a minute, George. I level the playing field for every single MSP.
Okay.
I give them that same voice. All they have to do is join the group. They get the same voice. They get the rise and fall. They get at consumption. They don't have a 3-year contract with the vendor. I give them everything that they bitch about. The vendor doesn't bill them directly. We bill them.
Mm-hmm.
We'll leave it. And trust me, if I had a billing issue at any of them, they're going to jump through 7 hoops versus your 1 to make us happy. So I say that to say this. If MSPs could ever get past this idea of me, it's really we're better together. We're powerful together. I can even quantify this even at valuation and where you can go with your company. I can quantify this. I was telling somebody, I wasn't telling somebody, I was at a conference. There's about 50 MSPs there. And I looked across the room and I said, how many people in here do at least $1 million? And a bunch of hands went up. I said, so let me just assume, or let's play that everybody in here is $1 million. You have 20% EBITDA, which means you have 200,000. 200,000. And you're all worth a 5x multiple. Anything sub million, 3 to 6. Mm-hmm. So let's say you're right at the high end of that at 5x, makes the math easy. Individually, you're all worth $1 million. So everybody in here, if you sold tomorrow, you could get your precious $1 million mm-hmm. with a stroke of a pen, with the same people in the room doing nothing different except coming together. Stroke of a pen, I can create 100 million in enterprise value out of thin air. The question is, who wants to share it?
There it is. That math makes sense.
Well, and so think about this. And then a lot of people are anti-PE. I'm not anti-PE. I just haven't needed them yet. I think I'm the largest founder-owned, no outside equity owners in the MSP space right now.
So let me hold on. Do you think the perception that you were, using Kaseya money or outside money is because nobody else is founder owned
Of
doing
course.
what you're doing.
And now, to be fair, to be honest, no outside money is not the right answer either.
Okay.
How did Tim do it? I did it with good old commercial banking.
Uh-huh.
The
That's a thing
cheapest
still?
the cheapest money you can get is how Tim Conkle did it. And
Okay.
that money required no equity outlay. It requires a really, 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 really good business with cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
Because see, you can leverage 5, 6 times if you're out in the world with debt.
Mm-hmm.
You can only leverage with commercial banking 2 times, 2.5
Right.
times. So you got to be a really good company to stay in covenant. And so the
Hmm.
difference was I could do it with regular commercial banking, and they'll give me all the money that I want. If you want
All
more,
right.
come back and ask.
Time out. Let me
Yeah,
ask you
yeah.
a question there. This is a very interesting topic.
Ask me.
Has the regular banking industry, the same people you would go to get, I don't know, a line of credit or a
Yep.
business loan or whatever, have they caught up to this business model? Because up until not so long ago, they looked at you like a plumbing business, like an accounting firm, right? Like it's not exactly the same because all of those companies that would fit professional services are pay as you go, right? I go to my
Yep.
accountant, I pay him to do my taxes. I don't talk to him unless I have to go back to him again for something else. I go to a plumber, I have a leak. Sure, he comes, he fixes my leak.
Yep.
I don't have a reoccurring agreement with these people. It's different for this industry. Have they caught up to that?
I think they've caught up to good business. I think I would say 90 something percent of MSPs could never walk into a commercial bank and get money.
Hmm.
Why? They don't have strategy. They don't have vision. They, and I could go deep in this. A lot of small guys. I want to go borrow $2 million to buy a $1 million company, or $1 million to buy $1 million company. So let's say that he's $1 million and they're $1 million. He doesn't grow, has no growth rate. The guy he's buying doesn't have a growth rate, so he's just wanting to get more money by putting them together.
Mm-hmm.
They're both worth the exact same amount. You just bought a dying asset. There's
Right.
no, there's no triage.
You're not growing, you're dying.
No, and that's the majority. I had 6 banks around my conference room table, all vying for my business. At the end of me whiteboarding this thing out and laying it out there, they all wanted in.
Mm.
So if it's a great business, you don't have to sell your soul
Right.
in order to grow it. If it's a great business. Now, I know personally of people that have gone out there and they'll get loans to buy a company. They'll pay 15% interest plus give equity out of. That's not Tim. Good old commercial. So I don't want people to think, oh, Tim just put all his money in this thing. No, we've had some commercial cash flow plus commercial banking has helped us. We just closed our 38th. I'll close my 39th in the last, well, September will be 3 years. So what is that, 28 months?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we just done it a little bit different.
Okay. So when you say 38, 39, you're talking about acquisitions of MSPs.
Yes.
Okay. So let's go there for a second. Is there a standard blueprint in the offer that you would give an MSP, or is it different? Every single deal is different.
They're all the same.
Okay.
Every single one, same terms, same
Okay.
multiple, same everything.
Hmm.
And and there's reasons for that too. It you know, and we typically only buy members. Why,
Okay.
why do we only buy members?
Because it's a known commodity. You don't have to guess.
Not just are they known commodity, they're already on stack. Transition. So I bought the first month that I started buying, I bought 6 MSPs in 1 month.
Wow.
90 days later, 100% integrated, everything done, no technology debt between them. That's why we did it this way. It's just a better now. Why the other way? The other reason is, so think about a PE firm when they buy an MSP.
Mm-hmm.
They have a 30% earnout.
Mm-hmm.
Reason why they have a 30% earnout, they think somewhere between 20 and 30% of the customers are going to leave. Why are they going to leave? Because you have to go resell every one of them on a new contract.
Yeah.
Our attrition is less than 5% across everything we've bought. Why? Well, because we execute on the backside. 80% of all interaction happens at the 20 level with those customers. And how does that happen? They call for service. They get the help desk. They get a technician, live technician right there. Now, the cool thing is that by all of us MSPs coming together, we were able to build a consumption-based help desk that's 24/7, 365 live answer, all US based. Huge, huge. I couldn't have done it with just my MSP. Again, this goes back to my thing, better together. If MSPs could ever get beyond ego, I don't want to work for nobody. Well, how many customers do you have? Oh, I've got 25. Well, you got 25 bosses. I mean,
that is a fact. That is a fact. So,
yeah.
so let me go the other way, Tim.
Yeah.
Now, I had an MSP for a really long time. I tried outsourcing help desk to third parties, right? I used Continuum I tried it. I tried it for 3 years. And you know what? At the end of that 3 years, my customers got exhausted.
Yep.
They just said, you know what? I feel like I'm talking to a new person every time. They have no idea who I am. Like, I'm constantly repeating myself. It takes feels like 3 times as long to get anything done. I shouldn't need to be on the phone for 17 minutes to reset my password. And I tried. I created as much documentation as you could ever want. That didn't make any change. And I finally got to the point where my customers were like, hey, the expectation of what you promised me and like what these guys give me is like way off, and like we're out. Unless if you don't get rid of them, we're getting rid of you, right? Like that's how the conversation ended. How do you fix that problem?
Well, same way you fixed it. How did you fix it? You brought it in-house where you could control how the calls happen. Now, if you grow and you've got 50 people answering the phone and all 50 just abjectly can answer, how many of your customers are going to be, hey, I got a new guy today. I got another new guy. So you build it just like you do inside. This is the difference between a help desk being truly built by an MSP, and we eat our own dog food. Where now you create pods where when you call in, you get the same people. What does that do? Tribal knowledge.
Yeah.
Our help desk works now, to be fair, hardest thing we ever built. Now it's easy when we all do things the same way.
Right.
Because now every process, think about, you said Continuum. So I don't know a lot about it, Continuum, but I'll just throw the name out. Think about 10 MSPs that call. All 10 do business 10 different ways, right? How do you account for all those 10 different ways on the help desk?
I got to assume, and the way it was sold to me, Tim, was, hey, there's certain things that are just, electricity, right? Like you're all going to be using Microsoft or Google, right? That's going to count for 99% of it, right? You're all going to be using, 70% of the antivirus solutions at the time were all these same companies, right? Yeah. Or their position was, if I can take half of the front line inbound requests and offload them from you, then you won. And I was like, and I went back and I did my math, and I'm like, sure, if that marketing actually becomes reality, they're right. It never became reality though.
No, because we would see 50% as a absolute abject failure.
Okay.
Most of our MSPs inside the group, including mine, over 80% of all help desk tickets are done by the help desk.
Wow. By the way, I could never get them past like 27%.
Well, you can't, because they're talking about level 1 task, right?
Right.
Now think about this too. You have 10 IT companies that document 10 different ways. We've created all in one instance of IT Glue where everybody creates documentation the exact same way. So when a tech goes and looks, he doesn't have to hunt and peck in 45 different locations. He goes straight to where the information is and he runs. Building a help desk is the hardest thing we ever built. The first 2 years, I'm telling you, I'm surprised that I didn't have MSPs hanging me. But the ones that hung in and helped us get there, now I'm telling you, but it can't be a third party. You have to realize all our ticketing systems on one, so all ticket numbers match up. All that communication happens the second it happens. It's not delayed. You don't have to upload nothing. You don't have. So now when a customer calls back and says, well, um, or calls the company, the MSP, and says, hey, I've got ticket 1812, and I just wanted to get an update on it. He looks at his and it's like, I don't have a ticket 1812.
Right. No,
That's
that's
why
okay. I see what you're
all of that
saying.
has to work.
It's an economies of scale conversation.
Yeah.
I'm following what you're saying, but let me ask you this kind of current day question in the same conversation.
Yeah.
So we tried outsourcing it overseas. That didn't work out. We tried outsourcing it domestically. That was better, but that really wasn't great. I'm going to plug in the AI bot now. I'm going to let the computer generated voice, machine, the new age answering machine get to take that call.
Yeah.
Huh? What do you think about that?
I don't think we're there yet.
Mm-hmm.
We still send every single inbound support call to a live technician, not to a dispatcher. Dispatchers only waste time getting it from here to there. And they can't, what our customer really wants when they call is they want immediate help by somebody they think is qualified.
Right.
I mean, it's a novel idea, but that's really what they want. And if they get that, they're very happy. And instead of, let's say a level one gets it, and instead of that level one saying, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing here, he pulls a level two over to him and they work it together. So you're constantly training your level ones up and not shooting your customers all over the building and starting over every time. I had to repeat myself 3 times. Why did they have to repeat themselves? Because they probably got transferred 3 times. I mean,
Yes.
And so it's different when you're just an MSP like we are, because it looks exactly like what anybody would build. It's just a lot bigger. A 20-man company couldn't build a 150-seat help desk. They just can't do it. And
Okay.
So
okay. Hold on. So let me go another direction that I think is on the same line of thinking.
Yeah.
A lot of smaller MSPs, and we've already established 85% of them probably fit that word.
Yeah.
Kind of try and dish the end customer directly to the vendor support line.
Yeah.
As a way to offload because they don't have enough time or bandwidth, right?
Yeah.
That tends to not go well, Tim, because like the person over here at Vendorland is like talking tech, and the person who's calling in like just wants their stuff to work. And usually there's a perception, conversation gap that just goes badly. But they still try and send it there just because why not? Let's try it. How much vendor support does the 20 group leverage, or do you think you have enough in-house knowledge that that's not really a thing? You said support was like literally the number one thing you said when you go to buy anything. So I assume that happens somewhere in the conversation. How does that work?
So that psyche fits on our side too. So we're gonna do. Let's say the customer. You're saying the customer calls and it's something wrong with their application. Let's say. One, just tribal knowledge over time kind of starts to make that better and better. But we also do vendor liaison. So our tech will literally call the vendor and work through that problem.
Okay.
Because who knows the product better than the vendor?
Nobody, for sure. But the expectation of the vendor's tech and your tech, like they're going to understand the language, right? They're going to understand what's going on.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. It's kind of frustrating sometimes when you call a vendor's tech support and they're in a different country and they have no context of what you're saying. You have to go through, they've got books. Oh, he said this. Okay. So they run to, and can it be frustrating? Here's the cool part. You take that frustration off the customer and put it on our tech.
Right.
So the customer doesn't have to deal with that frustration between those 2 points. It's a really cool concept. But that's typically what a regular MSP does.
No, it's fair.
If the internet's down, what do? We call the ISP.
Sure.
It's natural. The problem with third-party help, and we don't see ourselves as third-party help desk because the only way you can use our help desk is to be a member. So it's a help desk built by the members.
Okay,
but
so let me put some context here, and then I'll let you finish.
yeah, yeah,
So 20 group is split up between, I'll call it half the houses, 39 MSPs, I think you said, that you've acquired.
yes,
And the other side is, hey, I'm not looking to sell my business, but I want to leverage your resources. I'm going to sign up as a member, and then
yep.
I get to get advantage of the big company group buy stuff that I can't get on my own. How
Yep.
many members do you have?
We typically want to sit around 175 to 200. We don't want more than
More
that.
than 20.
Oh, yes. Yeah. It's funny because people used to ask me, do you have room for one more? And I would think in my mind, I'm like, why are they saying that? The 20 is based off the 80/20 rule. That's
Right.
it. Pareto rule. But if you think about a third party help desk. Probably not run by an MSP.
No.
Probably run by somebody that's run a big call center.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unfortunately, building a help desk in the MSP space is not a big call center.
No.
It is a highly, it's not $18 or $15 an hour people that just answer the phone and answer a question. It is highly qualified people. It's all professional people that make really good money.
Yeah.
And so it starts to fall. I've I kind of study a lot of things like this. There's a big company that sent all of their stuff offshore.
Mm-hmm.
Customers started jumping. It
I
just,
think, can I be honest with you? Can I be honest with you? I
yeah,
think Dell and HP and all those guys in the 2000s that did this first ruined that lane for everyone because it went so badly.
yes,
Nobody will ever consider it again.
no, and it's one of our selling points. We're all U.S. based. We have nothing offshore,
Mm-hmm.
which means CMC and NIST and all that becomes very easy for us. Why? Because we don't have to segment data. We don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So it's just it's building a big MSP with an MSP mentality versus building something where you're just trying to build a function that someone will pay for.
Hmm. Big zooming out though, Tim,
Yeah,
because you got a lot of macro data. I'm curious.
yeah.
Is that is the IT services MSP sandbox growing or is it consolidating? Or can it do two things at the same time?
I think he's doing both. I think you have now. I think there's a tipping point coming in probably the next 5 to 10 years
Okay.
because this industry is going to consolidate.
Okay.
So guys that are $1 2 million where there's really no mark. A P firm's not looking for a $2 million company.
No. Maybe
You
looking
have,
for 100 of them.
yeah, you have to call the 20, and if
Mm.
you do the right things, the 20 will buy you all day long. Anywhere from 5 million down. Biggest I've bought's been around 10 million.
Wow. Okay.
But it's kind of my box, right? We've built it where because I knew the industry was going to consolidate. Now, how do you consolidate part of that 85%? You have to create a really good box to do it. And that's
Yes.
ultimately the plan way back 13 years ago. That was the plan.
Okay.
We're going to create a real marketplace where the everyday MSP that nobody wants has a place to sell and to create wealth.
I,
You
I,
know,
I can I'm gonna give you a Georgism here. I don't think
yeah,
it's gonna be novel, but I've been around. I started when I was still in school. So, high
yeah,
school,
yeah.
believe it or not. When I started my IT services company, and I'll date myself here, Tim. I started like 2000, 2001. Okay. It's 2025. You do the math. But here's what I learned through all of that.
Yeah,
This business is a really hard business.
it's hard.
And quite frankly, I believe if you look at it properly, you should be using this as a stepping stone to whatever comes after it. Most
100%.
people that start in this business, I'm going to use a movie line, you were
Yep.
the hero so long that you saw yourself become the villain. You get to a burnout and you are
Yeah.
just miserable.
Yeah.
Like,
There's lots. Now, so how do we ultimately fix that for the space? You have to create a natural place for that next step. And there's just not a next step for a lot of people. You know, uh,
They shut it down.
They just shut it down. And they take all of that energy and all of that stuff that they put into it and lose it.
So it's
I'll
like
give you a
20
great example
years,
of this.
25 years, 30 years, and
Yeah.
it's just gone.
Now, if you look, you take the first 6 companies I bought, if you froze them in time right there,
Hmm.
moved them forward 28 months, all of those guys are sitting on around a 20x multiple for what they had.
Wow.
This is how you be better together, and this is how you build wealth.
Hmm.
Is you do it to where you get on a bigger box and it just exponentially. So we've
20x sounds a hell of a lot better than 5.
are 4 or 3.
Yeah.
So little guys, if they could get out of their way, and I'm not picking on little guys because I was a little guy and
Hmm.
I struggled for 18 years. So I get it. I get the mentality. I get everything. They try all these different marketing things. They fail. They finally give up and they decide, hey, I'm just going to float along. I'm going to just float along, and whatever customers I get from referrals, and hey, I can make my $120,000 a year. These guys literally created themselves a job and not a
Yes.
company.
I
And so,
I agree 18,000%.
yep.
Yes.
So the 20 is their nirvana.
Hmm.
Why? Because the 20 is run by somebody, me, that truly wants for us to all be wealthier than we would be. Now, don't get me wrong, Tim's not a philanthropist on this. Tim's getting wealthy too, right?
By the way, I didn't think that I would expect any differently, but
Yeah.
it's all good.
But if you go to a place by yourself, it's very lonely.
Yeah.
If you can help a lot of people move up that chain, I mean, you've got people that if they'd have shut their companies down, or if they had sold them, might have got 1.5 million,
Hmm.
now sitting on 4.5, $5 million.
Yeah.
And they
So
didn't, and they didn't have to struggle. They didn't have to worry about growth. They didn't have to worry. They literally got to step back. Okay, I'm going to step into my magic, whatever that is. I'm a great technician. That's what you should be doing. You should
yeah.
not be doing the accounting or the sales or and all of a sudden they breed this. Even people that join the group, all of a sudden they take vacations.
Wow, that's
And
not.
I'm like,
So let me ask you this: Do you I think the space has matured a bit where people realize that there is value in their business. I think for a large amount of the total number of companies out there, I think at least half of them know that exists, right?
yeah,
I'm just going to pick a number, but I think that's a good number. So, do you run into competition when you're going to buy a company because they're simply just trying to get the best deal?
uh, no.
Okay.
And think about this. You have to think about where you are. If you're talking about a $2-3 million company,
Hmm.
who's the market? PE firm doesn't want it because they want 1 million plus in EBITDA.
Yeah.
So where's the market? Who's going to buy them? Another MSP.
Hmm.
Not going to get wealthy that way.
Slow.
Well, even if you invest back in, think about this. I was just reading an article on one of the bigs that are acquiring MSPs.
Hmm.
And this is public. I mean, it's the article that's out there. And the two main guys go to Berkshire Hathaway every year.
Hmm.
And they prescribe to Berkshire Hathaway's way of doing business. Buy good companies and hold them forever.
Okay.
Now keep that thought for a minute. Now I'm an MSP and I say, oh, I'm going to sell to you. Okay, we're going to give you 60% cash and 40% you're going to invest back in the company. No matter what the percentage is, I'm just making those up, by the way.
Sure. Sure. I got you.
When do you get your 40%?
You have to sell.
When the people that are founding it saying, we want to hold forever, when do you get your money?
That's a great question.
Never.
You never
Never.
get your money. Hmm.
So there has to be a strategy and a vision that you're trying to build wealth for the people in the MSPs in the group, not just wealth for the top of the box.
Fair.
Cash flow that goes where? So I'm different. I'm trying to build wealth. Completely different strategy in mind. I am not holding forever.
It doesn't sound like it.
it it does no good for the people that trust. I could say that if I
Does that
wrote,
mean you sell the whole thing to, do you go IPO? Do you sell to a
I
PE?
don't know. I don't know.
So
I don't
we're not
know.
even there yet. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's deeper than that. You never sell everything.
sure.
Think about this for a minute. So all of these guys get in the box.
Hmm.
You do a 60-40 to begin with. You bounce the first time or sell the first time, doesn't matter. Take 80%, leave 20%. Rinse,
Okay.
repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. So some people may be in this thing for the next 20 years,
Hmm.
still at the table from their little bitty company back here. I honestly believe if it's done right, you can take $1.5 million, $2 million MSP, and if they do it right, they'll net out. And I'm not talking about after tax and all that. I think they can get to $10 million. Impossible for them to do any other way.
Not unless they're making external,
They've been,
investments or
they've been
something
in
else.
they've been in business 25 years. What are all the problems?
Yeah.
People, process, and money.
Yeah.
Money first, people second, process third. Because if you don't have people, you don't need process. If you
Mhm.
don't have people, it's because you don't have the money to hire them.
Fair.
So it's this circular thing that happens where if MSPs could get to that point where they think, and it's not about Tim Conkle, it's about them, but at some point you have to have some level of vision or strategy to extract yourself out of the business and make enough wealth that it doesn't matter.
So big takeaway from here. There's a lot, and I could probably do another hour with you, like
Yeah,
without.
yeah,
By the way, this is good stuff,
yeah,
guys. You got in business because you started a job for yourself. A lot of you, most of you. I did it.
yeah,
Tim surely did it. 18
yeah.
years, right? We just heard that. And by the way, I didn't know that. I learned that just like you did right here on this thing. Um, but when do you turn around and start looking at this as an investment and a money strategy? Because that's ultimately why you should have started a business. It's probably not why you did. It's why you should have.
It's
But at the
it's
end of the day, you can pivot to, hey, let's look at this as what's my upside? Going back to the NFL concept, right? Hey,
yeah,
I buy low, I either, it didn't work out, I didn't lose my shirt, or I bought low and it was, I won the Super Bowl, right? Like
yeah,
that's the upside. And there's in between, right? But bottom
yeah,
line
yeah.
is you have to look at, this isn't meant to be a forever thing. This is meant to be, I'm putting my time in, but I need to get something out of it at the end. And I know most of you don't think that way.
And I 100% agree with you. You start a business to create wealth. If you
Mm-hmm.
have any other reason for starting a business, it's foolish. Well, I just want to help a lot of people out. Having a good company that grows and creates wealth lets you help more people than you would ever do with just the lip service of saying, I did this to make people, to help people.
I can't argue that at all.
And you have to start with you. You have to start with you. And then it goes from you to your wife to your kids.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I do it. I'm creating wealth for the people I love the most. And then I'm gonna stretch that out to my friends. And to me, everybody in the MSP space is my friend. I love the MSP space. We're weird. All of us MSP people are weird people, but it's my kind of weird, so it just works.
Hmm. Listen, they say money doesn't solve, happiness.
It helps.
It helps a whole lot.
Hey, let me tell you something. Lack of it creates more unhappiness than having too much of it. There's a balance. Yeah, if you had a ton of money and you lived in the closet and nobody loved you because you never shared anything or did anything, that's a lonely place to be with that money. I spent 3 days with a billionaire in Utah at his house. Most miserable person I've ever met in my entire life.
Wow.
Now I wasn't in there because of me. It was a friend of mine that knew him, and a group of us stayed with him. They duck hunted in the Goat River and all that man shit. But wife wasn't there. He griped about everything. Miserable. Money can create misery, but it can also create a really, really cool utopian world where not only your family, but your friends get elevated to a whole new place.
I like that. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Where do people find more information about either side of this program, right? Like you said,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
want to be a member, or hey, I want to sell this thing. Who do I got
Yeah.
to talk to? Where do they go?
If you go to the20.com, just THE.20 or THE20.com.com, there's a form you can fill out. If you're in a place that you're going to sell, I can show you where you get your most bang for your buck. If you're smaller and you're like, Tim, I'm too small, nobody wants to buy me, let me help you get there. I will give you the recipe and all the pieces at consumption, which means you don't have to go spend all your money to do it. Do it at consumption and quit getting on this. They got to get off this treadmill where they get on a new marketing program, jump off, get on a new marketing program, jump off, get on a and we worry about some of the craziest stuff in the world. Let me tell you, white labeling everything. The
Yes.
way we bundle our own stuff. I tell people all the time, only a fool white labels another man's liability.
Yeah, I should never make Microsoft 365 George 365.
No, because
It goes down.
you
I'm the
took
bad
all.
guy.
Hey, but it's easy to say, oh, Microsoft's down. But if
And by
it's
the
good,
way, it's gone down like 2 or 3 times, like within the last 10 days, right? Like I'm not
it's
talking about a
horrible.
theoretical.
The Azure, they're having a scale problem with Azure, I think.
Mm, I
But
think you might be right.
yeah, but white labeling is about ego.
Yeah.
Ego, most expensive thing in business
I,
because it's never happy
I'm gonna
and it
make I'm gonna
requires
make
every
that
penny.
I'm gonna make that the title to this session. Ego is the most expensive thing in business.
Wow.
Hey, I
Yeah,
think you're right. I can't. I got to be honest with you, Tim. Like I said, we haven't spent a lot of time talking. Like kind of like just been hovering in the same places, but haven't
yeah,
really
yeah,
had a real conversation. I got to be honest with you. A lot of stuff you said on this session, it all makes sense. I can't argue a lot of it.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, and then
And
like the sky is blue, and I need electricity to turn my computer on. That is a fact.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I kind of feel like there's a little bit of kindred spirit. We kind of think in some of the same veins, right? We know that I'm pretty sure George Bardassi woke up one day and said, I'm going to build a business that's going to make me wealthy. He didn't
Yeah.
wake up and say, I'm going to build a business that drives me freaking nuts every day.
Oh
And
no, it does that no matter what. I'll tell you this, and I kind of, as we're a little bit over time, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah, like listen, my parents came from absolutely nothing, right? Like a lot
yeah,
of the people who came into this country, depending on time and dates, right? Sold everything they had and came to America for the American dream.
yeah,
I was born here, first generation. And I know depending on your family's history, maybe you're second, third, fourth, but at some point somebody came here, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's a big. You want to talk about risk versus reward, right? I
Big.
mean, that's as serious as it gets, right? And so I saw my parents work with nothing. Just all they did was they had their two hands and they just worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. And by the way, I know it's a little bit cliche, but like you want your kids to have a better life than you did. That's absolutely how they were wired and still are, right? Like, hey, I don't want you to have to work as hard as I had to.
Yeah,
But that's how I was raised. Those are the wires I put together. So my point was, hey, I understood the value of a dollar real early on in life.
yeah. Same,
Nobody was
same,
giving it
same
to me.
here. Same here.
Yeah.
You know, hey, dollars just wasn't handed out in our household when it growing
No,
up. I mean,
I had to work for it.
you had to work for that stuff. And but you know what? I think it's kind of funny when you're a kid, it's not as important. As an adult, my parents were perfect in this arena. They gave me drive to work for what I want and all the other stuff that goes with it. And it sounds like your parents were probably rewarded better than most because their son has turned out to be pretty successful.
I'm sure they'll love to hear that because I'm sure they tell me they watch these, but it
Yeah.
must be boring for
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I'll tell you this, yeah, when my father is a carpenter cabinet maker by trade, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I try, and you'd be surprised because, my wife's like, you can't hang a frame on the wall. And I'm like, oh, yeah, wrong guy. You don't want me to put a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Trust me. She's like, how did you get to this place? Your father is like a handyman. And I'm like, because he told me to go do something else.
Yeah. My dad was in construction. So when I called him and said, hey, I found a little company for sale, and he goes, well, if you're scared, don't do it. He knew that I was going to take that challenge,
Mm-hmm.
and it ultimately paid off.
No, yeah. I mean, but there's a little bit of, I think, big picture, start a business for an outcome, not to create a job for yourself. If that's the case, go work for
Yeah,
somebody else. I'm with you. Two, there's a certain drive that's required to be successful, though.
there is. And if you don't have it, this is the cool part about life and humans. The people that have drive have enough for those willing to jump on the drive train.
Okay.
It's no different than you. All the people that you surrounded yourself have decided, I don't have the same level of drive and I can't do what George does, but shit, I just want to be on the train.
Okay.
So you're the conductor, you got full steam, pretty plush seats on the train. Who wouldn't want to be part of that? That's what most people don't realize. It is okay to jump on somebody else's train that has the drive that you don't, because we need everybody. Everyone on your train has propelled you forward. And so it's not a, well,
I mean, that could be as simple as I bought shares in somebody on the stock market, right?
100%. 100%.
Hey, Apple's doing good. I'm going to go buy some stock in Apple today, right? Like,
Crazy
same
story.
conversation.
1992, I buy Rolling Technology. I'm working. Apple stock is 23 cents.
Oh,
The headlines in
thought
the
so.
news. Yeah. If I'd have bought $1,000 worth of shares in 1992, they'd be worth something like $100 million. $1,000.
Wow.
Now think though, everything in the news was Apple's going bankrupt.
Mm.
Fear scares most people off the greatest opportunities in life. Well, I heard some friend of mine say that Tim Conkle's an asshole. Okay.
Tim, I heard that.
No, people tell me, hey, some people, people say, Tim, people either love you or hate you. I can't help that.
Same for this Philly guy here.
And I'm 99% sure you're the same way, because we're kind of built this way, where
Yes.
we're pretty confident. We believe what we believe, but that's what makes us take risks that no one else will.
That's fair. I agree with that. And yes,
Yeah.
and even though we're from completely different parts of the world, yes, some people really love me or they really hate me. But I think part of my problem, Tim, for whatever it's worth, is, and it sounds like you're kind of the same way, just from not just this session, but like I've seen you talk before.
Yeah.
I just don't like to sugarcoat things, right? Like I'd rather just be like really straightforward, almost too transparent. And people don't
Yeah.
like that for some reason.
Yeah.
And I'd rather know what I'm working with and who I'm dealing with than have to guess.
Yeah. If you have to lie, and lies be something else than what you are. If you have to be something else for people to like you, they're the wrong people.
Yeah.
And it's not the people that you want to bring on the wealth train with you and make wealthy.
No.
Why?
Definitely.
Because they'll always do this friction. And me, I don't like friction. I want everybody to love me. I'm just being honest. But I'm also a realist in the sense that it's not going to change me if you don't. So
You're confident in who you are. That's simple as that.
So I think a cool statement would be for everybody that will watch this, whether you thought George was an asshole or not, or you thought I was an asshole or not, you really should stop and figure out, is it the truth?
I think, unfortunately, and we'll probably end with this, and maybe we'll schedule another one of these. This is so good. I think we
It's
could go
awesome,
on.
isn't it?
I have 10 other things that I could ask you right now, but if you're not telling your story, somebody else is going to make your story for you.
100%. 100%.
Unfortunately, it's not the story that you wanted.
No, well, it never is. Outside perspective never lets you know what the inside perspective is. But
Yeah.
this has been cool, dude. I really appreciate you having me on. And I know we've never met, but it's weird in a sense that we could be friends, and I've only known you for an hour.
Amazing. And, you know, even though I was brought up to be an anti-Dallas and the anti-Texas guy, you know, being the Eagles fan that I am, it's okay. There's some nice
You
people there.
just have to put football to the side.
Hey, you know, when it comes time, I'm always willing to take a friendly wager.
Yeah, yeah. Philly was incredible this year. I mean, hey, I'm a football fan, and I love football. Incredible football is incredible football. I don't care what name or tag you put on it.
Well, the incredible football teams get built right now in this time of the year. So let's see what your teams down there do. And
Yeah,
same
yeah,
for
yeah.
me, right? I got to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah.
Tim, we're gonna get another one on the books. Thank you very much. Maybe we'll actually do this in person sometimes, because this is the first time we've actually talked.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
more than just a drive-by. Guys, this session was recorded. I suggest you go back and rewind it. There's a lot of good nuggets here. And quite frankly, I just think if you didn't take anything out of this, there's a lot of good things. Look at your business and understand, if you're just working to pay the bills at the end of the month, it probably doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like it's just a job. So if you're okay with that and understand that, that's one thing. But I would suggest you'd have a lot less things to worry about if somebody else is dealing with those problems. Either go work for somebody else or consider another avenue. This could be another avenue. I mean, by the way, if you don't know what's out there, you can't make good decisions, right? So if anything other than educate yourself on what's happening in the marketplace. And Tim seems to think that even though things still seem to be growing in our sandbox, the next 5 to 10 years is going to flip the other way. Understand what that means for you. And Tim, catch you later. For everyone else, this session will be online later on today. MSPinitiative.com and the20.com. Go check it out, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, George.
Have a good one, guys.